Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Does Kyle discover Holden and Claire sharing a bed? We're assuming that after they return to Genoa City, Claire from The Young and the Restless will give in to her attraction to Holden and have a passionate night together. Kyle, meantime, still harbors feelings for her. If he happened to walk in on them together the following time, it would be even more soapy. What would have to happen, though, for him to discover them together? Let's investigate the options. The Young and the Restless Kyle, Claire and Holden triangle. On The Young and the Restless, Kyle informed Claire that he was going back to Genoa City. Kyle and Claire both flashed back to the episode on The Young and the Restless, where he announced his departure from Los Angeles, then going back to Genoa City. She was shocked that he was returning so quickly. "You're giving up that easily?" she asked him. "Pardon me, Claire, but didn't you tell him you wanted space?" Like when she ended their relationship, she appears to be sending him conflicting messages. Claire truly doesn't sure what she wants, but we know she still has feelings for Kyle since she wouldn't be thinking about him after making love to Holden. So she told him, "I'm not saying it's forever." We're very certain that another romantic scene is on the horizon because her night with Holden ignited a fire inside of her. However, as Claire want to go back home, it will happen in GC the next time. Will Kyle see them two together? Characters are frequently placed in such startling circumstances by soap opera writers. We witnessed it on General Hospital when Carly discovered her husband, Sonny, sharing a bed with Nina. When Brooke discovered Hope in bed with Thomas on The Bold and the Beautiful, we witnessed it. Kyle should be the one to discover the lovers in action in this specific instance on YNR. It may serve as the necessary wake-up call to persuade him to permanently move on from Claire. However, where in GC might it occur? Will Claire relocate to the GCAC from the TAC house? Will Claire stay at the GCAC on The Young and the Restless for a short while? Claire may choose to leave the TAC house, where she presently resides with her mother, Victoria, if she wishes to spend more time alone with Holden. Given that half of the characters on The Young and the Restless eventually remain at the Genoa City Athletic Club, it's possible that Claire will do the same until she finds a place of her own. Tessa recently checked into a room at the GCAC, where Phyllis, Michelle Stafford, is now staying. Will Claire be the next person to visit the GCAC? Claire has moved out of the TAC house and is now staying at the GCAC, which Kyle may find out through rumors. He might visit the athletic club to speak with her face-to-face because he is adamant about keeping her away from Holden. While they are in bed together, he might knock on the door. Alternatively, he might find that the door is unlocked and decide to open it because soap opera characters frequently enter without permission. Just think about how shocked he would be to see them together. That would be soapy, dramatic fun. Alternatively, Claire might rent the flat above Crimson Lights. On The Young and the Restless, Sharon used to rent out the apartment above Crimson Lights. Do you recall the small apartment above Crimson Lights? Sharon has rented it out to different characters throughout the years. It was where Ray Rosales and his then-wife, Mia, resided. On The Young and the Restless, Chelsea used to reside there as well. Claire might be the next occupant. It's true that it's not the kind of opulent apartment we would anticipate a Newman living in. However, Claire looks like the kind of person who may value having a modest, comfortable home of her own. Additionally, because she frequently visits Crimson Lights, it's in a handy location. Imagine if she invites Holden to visit her flat on a date. She lights candles and pours them each a glass of wine to create a romantic ambience. Or perhaps they could collaborate to create Vesper cocktails. One thing leads to another, and eventually the door is knocked on. Who is it? Why, it's Kyle, of course. That would be the ideal way to close a Friday episode of YNR. Jack and Diane band together to support Kyle. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Thursday, November 6th, 2025 are provided here. The Young and the Restless next episodes. On The Young and the Restless, Jack and Diane will attempt to assist Kyle. Kyle's trip to Los Angeles did not turn out as planned because he was unable to convince Claire to accompany him back home. He followed her to the City of Angels, but she wasn't overjoyed. On Halloween, Kyle tried his best to keep his displeasure from his son, Harrison. Luckily, both Kyle and his parents are excellent. Watch for Kyle's parents, Jack and Diane, to band together to support their son on Thursday's show. Will they have to get in touch with Claire for that? Kindly diary. On The Young and the Restless, Noah might begin disclosing his character's recent past. It's been a while since Noah left Genoa City. He was in a relationship with Audra while he was in England. Now that he's back in the United States, Noah is prepared to discuss his activities while he was away from his family. Since his vehicle accident, Noah has been concentrating on getting better. He may now concentrate on other aspects of his life as he has been making progress. Watch for Noah to discuss his time away from Genoa City on Thursday's program. Danger, danger, danger. On The Young and the Restless, Nick, Joshua Morrow, is concerned about Sharon. When Sharon and Nick went to Los Angeles to see Noah, they didn't anticipate being taken aback by Matt Clark's return. But that's exactly what took place. Given that Matt has returned to the scene, danger is present everywhere. Watch for Nick to exhibit worry for Sharon's well-being on Thursday's broadcast. Sharon may do actions that put her in danger because she is determined to protect her family. Without a doubt, Sharon is incredibly resourceful. After Cameron Kirsten threatened her daughter Faith, she defeated him. However, Sharon might find herself in a predicament this time that requires Nick to save her. The second Kyle entered. Claire's suite at the GCAC was filled with a lovely hue as the gentle glow of the Genoa City night filtered through the drapes. The sheets were tangled evidence of recent love, and the air was heavy with the lingering smell of wine and perfume. As Claire Newman lay in Holden's arms, her thoughts were a jumble of unidentifiable feelings, including perplexity, remorse, and an odd, indisputable contentment. She had convinced herself that Holden was only a diversion from the pain Kyle had left behind. She wondered whether Holden was evolving into something more, though, as the man next to her caressed a lock of hair from her face and whispered her name with that soft confidence that seemed to come so naturally to him. Kyle Abbott stood in the hallway outside the suite, his heart pounding. He craved closure, which is why he had come to the Genoa City Athletic Club. He had made a sincere effort to let go of Claire. He had been told by Jack and Diane to stop torturing himself with hypothetical scenarios and move on. But since coming back from Los Angeles, the pain in his chest had not gone away. All he wanted to do, he told himself, was make sure Claire was doing well and had returned without incident. However, the reality was much more nuanced. He was missing her. After so much emotional weariness, he missed her grin, the way she pushed him, and the way she gave him a sense of renewed vitality. Kyle hesitated before raising his hand to knock. He believed he heard her giggle through the door. It was breathy and gentle, clearly hers. An innate fear crept through him, and his heart tightened. Perhaps it was nothing at all. Perhaps she was on the phone or watching a movie. But something inside of him broke when he heard the low murmur of a man's voice, Holden's voice. Kyle turned the doorknob against all of his better judgment. Like many doors in soap operas, it was unlocked, just waiting for catastrophe to strike. He was frozen in place by what he saw. Holden laid in bed with Claire, his Claire, the woman he had once thought he could live his entire life with. Her skin was exposed against the blankets, her golden hair spread across the pillow, and Holden's arm was wrapped around her waist in a possessive manner. Time itself seems to pause for a brief instant. The sound of Claire's shocked gasp and Kyle's own heart pounding made the world shrink. "Kyle!" she whispered, sitting up and holding the covers close to her chest while her face turned pale in disbelief. Ever calm, Holden raised himself up on his elbows. "Man, Kyle, perhaps you ought to." "Don't," Kyle interrupted in a scratchy, shaky voice. "Remain silent." Anger was not as bad as the agony in his eyes. It was heartbreak, unadulterated and impossible to conceal. Although he had previously envisioned this moment, he had never anticipated it would be so painful. It was more than simply jealousy to see Claire with Holden. It was betrayal. It was the last assurance that what they had, or at least what he believed they had, was finished. The consequences. Claire's mind raced as she fumbled for her robe. When she returned to Genoa City, she had wanted to speak with Kyle to let him know that she needed time, space, and clarity. But this was not what she had anticipated. She hadn't anticipated his arriving at her door at the most inconvenient time. "Please, Kyle, it's not what you think," she said. Kyle laughed bitterly. "Really, Claire?" He looked at Holden, who had now swung his legs over the side of the bed, obviously uncomfortable but refusing to give up. "Because it looks exactly like what I think." Holden spoke in a steady tone. "Kyle, you ought to leave. Nobody is benefiting from this." Kyle stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "You believe you can simply take my place? Do you believe that this is an attempt to assist her? Holden, you don't even know her. You have no idea what she has endured." Holden said calmly, "That's where you're wrong. I'm not here to manipulate her or make her better. I know exactly what she's been through. She wants me to be here, therefore I am." Kyle was hit hard by those statements. He glanced to Claire, looking for any indication that this wasn't true, any denial on her face. However, she remained silent. Her quiet was sufficient response. Kyle's throat constricted. His voice broke as he whispered, "I hope he's worth it." The sound of the door closing reverberated like the last note of a requiem as he turned and left. Genoa City's ripple. The news had begun to spread across Genoa City by the following morning. Phyllis wasted no time in telling Diane what she had heard about Kyle's angry exchange with Jack in the GCAC lobby. Jack and Diane arrived at the Abbott estate in a matter of hours, attempting to mend their son's broken heart. Jack placed the glass in front of his son and poured him a drink. "You have to acknowledge that Claire made her decision, Kyle, son. Chasing her won't make anything better, even if I know it hurts." Kyle gazed into the amber fluid. I simply believed that she still had feelings for me. "It wasn't permanent," she said. "She gave me hope." Diane put a hand on her son's arm, always protective. "Some people wait until it's too late to decide what they want. Perhaps this will help her recognize that she lost something worthwhile." However, Kyle was no longer certain. Perhaps he was the one who had been clinging to a false hope. Holden had left for work, and Claire was sitting by herself in her suite. She kept thinking about the night, not the intensity, but Kyle's expression when he saw them. She was unable to get rid of the guilt. Holden had been patient, compassionate, and just what she needed. However, she was reminded that her sentiments were far from resolved when she saw Kyle at that doorway. She had assumed that by going into Holden's arms, she would be able to get away from her turmoil, but she had only made things worse. Claire's torn heart. Claire encountered Victoria, her mother, at Crimson Lights later that week. As she sipped her coffee, she made an effort to appear calm, but Victoria could see right through her daughter's brittle exterior. "What's going on, sweetie?" Victoria asked quietly. "Since you returned, you've been preoccupied." Claire let out a sigh. Kyle learned about Holden and me. He entered on us. Despite her best efforts to avoid passing judgment, Victoria's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, Claire, that had to have been terrible." Claire acknowledged it was. "He gave me the impression that I had stabbed him in the back. That's not how I intended it to go." Victoria closely examined her daughter. "Are you in love with Holden?" Claire paused. "I'm not sure. Perhaps I could. But despite everything, Kyle remains in my heart. I simply don't know how to disable that." Reaching across the table, Victoria grasped her hand. "Then you must be truthful with both of them. If not, you will continue to cause harm to everyone, including yourself." Holden's viewpoint. The consequences also affected Holden. Later that night, he confided in his buddy and co-worker Nate Hastings at Society. Holden ran a hand through his hair and remarked, "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." When Kyle entered, he saw everything. I could see that he was in anguish. Nate shot him a sly glance. Did you not realize that she wasn't over him? Holden gave a nod. Yes. However, I reasoned that she might move on if I showed her something different, something stable. I suppose I was deluding myself. Man, be careful, Nate cautioned. Claire has experienced a great deal. It is risky to be trapped in the center of a Newman Abbott storm. Holden gave a small smile. Yeah, well, that advice is a little late. Kyle's pivotal moment. Days went by, but Kyle was unable to get rid of the picture of Holden and Claire together. Every peaceful moment, whether at work with Harrison or even in his dreams, was plagued by it. But ultimately, resolution started to replace sadness. He came to the realization that he had to stop living in the past. Even though it broke his heart, he had to accept Claire's decision. He went to Jack's office at Jabot one afternoon. Dad, I've been thinking, he said. Perhaps it's time for me to accept the New York division's offer. Jack appeared astonished, but pleased. Are you certain? Kyle gave a nod. Yes. I need to start over. Somewhere, that doesn't make me think of her. Jack touched his shoulder. Go ahead and do it. You have my whole support. There was a glimmer of what appeared to be peace in Kyle's eyes as he exited the office. He felt as though he could breathe again for the first time in weeks. Claire's remorse. Claire was standing outside the Abbott residence a few nights later. She had debated whether or not to come for hours. She couldn't let Kyle go without saying goodbye because she had heard through the grapevine that he intended to leave town. Diane's face was cold yet courteous when she opened the door. He's packing upstairs, Diane remarked calmly. I don't know if he wants to see you. Claire said, I just need 5 minutes. Diane paused for a while before nodding. 5 minutes. Kyle was closing up his luggage when Claire walked into his room. Startled, but unsurprised, he looked up. Why are you in this place? She whispered, I heard you're leaving. I couldn't let you leave without speaking. I have nothing more to say, Kyle answered. You made the decision. Claire moved in closer. It wasn't that easy. I didn't understand. I still am. Kyle gave a head shake. No, Claire. It's easy. I wasn't your choice. And it's all right. I simply can't continue to be the person who waits for you to solve the problem. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to hurt you, Kyle. I am aware, he murmured softly. However, you did. They stood silently for a long time, feeling the weight of everything that remained between them. Then, with tears clouding her vision, Claire turned and left. She knew she would never be able to go if she turned around, so she didn't. The consequences and prospects. As usual, Genoa City continued to progress forward as the weeks went by. However, memories of that evening persisted. Claire made an effort to reconcile with Holden, but her heart wasn't in it. Kyle's visage at that doorway, the anguish in his eyes, came to her each time she saw him. Holden eventually realized the truth. One evening, he whispered softly but firmly, You're still in love with him. Claire didn't refute it. I wish I wasn't. Sadly, he grinned. You cannot construct anything genuine on top of an incomplete project. You must determine your true desires. Claire observed Kyle's eventual departure for New York from a distance, concealed by her car's tinted windows. It was better this way, she assured herself. Perhaps some time apart would aid in their healing. However, she couldn't get rid of the feeling that she had just lost something priceless as his plane vanished into the distance. Jack and Diane, meanwhile, were cautious but hopeful as they observed their son from the Abbott mansion. We underestimate his strength, Diane whispered. Jack gave a nod. We both give that to him. The door left ajar in the epilogue. A few months later, Claire was reading a headline about Kyle's success in New York while sipping a cup of coffee at Crimson Lights. Proud, but heartbroken, she gave a wistful smile. Then, as she turned to go, a new message appeared on her phone. From Kyle Abbott. Claire, hello. I've heard that you're doing great. We might be able to catch up at some point. Her breath caught. She stared at the message for a time, feeling both relieved and unsure. She then typed a brief response. That would be nice. She couldn't help but wonder if their story was still ongoing as she pushed submit. After all, no door is ever permanently locked in Genoa City. Watch Brand New Young and the Restless episodes every weekday on CBS and Paramount+.